Hi, this is Nolan K. Dahl with another Israel Report. I'm reporting to you from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. And it's exciting to be back in Jerusalem here to report to you about what's been happening lately in the capital. I don't know if you've read about this. It's one of those things that kind of has gone under the radar as far as social media or news reporting and news coverage. But just not too long ago here, in the past few weeks, there's been a special event here in Jerusalem where basically the three monotheistic religions have come together. I think I might have seen in the pictures some Buddhists and other different religions, and the idea and the concept was that the gathering of all the different religions in one place between what they stated between four walls, where they would gather and they would just pray. And it sounds good, it sounds nice, you know, it sounds very multicultural, multi-religion, tolerance and all that. But let me just point out a little problem with this concept. We're in the very capital of the world and the capital of Israel, Jerusalem, where there is a lot of religious strife and struggle going on right here in this capital. And for them to hold this event here called the Amen festivities, where they had different artists, musicians, and I guess dancers and stuff. I'm not sure all the different events that took place, but they had a ton of different activities to really try to hype up this whole event. And I was reading one of the coverages about this event, and let me just be honest with you. I don't believe, okay, in Muslims and Jews and Christians and Buddhists and Shintos and what have you coming together and having a kumbaya, fun, happy time. I really believe that each religion should remain within its own stream, within its own expression and way of doing things separately. Because if you've traveled the world like I have a little bit, you see that around the world, Christians and Muslims don't get along. Okay, all of northern Africa, there's bloodshed. There are people being butchered to death because of these two faiths in specific not getting along. That's a fact of life. That's a fact of reality. It's not because of blacks and whites and yellows and greens and colors of skin. Okay, it's not a racial issue. These are Africans killing Africans. Okay, even of the same tribal clans, because of a different of faith, okay? Because this one's a Muslim, this one's a Christian, and it's fierce. It's bloody, it's awful. You have terrorist attacks, you have Christians taking revenge attacks back against Muslims, and each one is killing each other, and it's just bloody and it's awful. And for this mythical unicorn concept, yeah? Because, you know, unicorns are not real, by the way. But this concept of, you know, oh yeah, you know, this exists, this peace on earth, this kumbaya, that's nonsense. There's only one place on earth where we're going to see a true spiritual awakening and reality, where the earth is going to have a spiritual awakening. I don't know how to explain it, because it's the prophets of Israel who talk about this era and this time in history where Jerusalem is going to be glorified, magnified. Nations of the world are going to come here. You read Isaiah 60, for example. It's very inspiring. It talks about the nations coming and building the walls of Jerusalem and beautifying God's house, the Temple Mount. And it talks about how that era is going to be a time in history where God's house is going to be a center of where the world is going to come to and worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? Not each one worshiping their own God and their own demigods and this Goa type reality. It's talking about reality where the Temple Mount and the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is central and supreme. And I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but it says it's going to be a house of prayer for all nations. So all nations somehow are going to unify under this principle and this concept, and to hold this make-believe, how would you say, man's attempt of creating that outside of this context, it's going to fail. It's going to fall apart, because what it is it's putting the Temple Mount aside, it's putting the prophecies aside, putting aside the reality of how this is really going to come about. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know that Scripture has proven to be true. The people of Israel are back in our land, that this nation, this nation is growing and thriving, and that there is fruit growing in the desert of this land, where this was once a barren land, it is now producing fruit, and supernatural realities are taking place in this country today. So what am I saying? If the prophecies were true about that, I believe the prophecies are true about a house of prayer for all nations at the Temple Mount. And I believe that it's going to somehow come about with the Jewish king of Israel, the Messiah, being ruling and reigning from this place, and him being king, and him unifying the nations under Israel somehow. So this is Don Kedal reporting to you from Jerusalem, the city of the great king. Shalom and goodbye.